So welcome back everybody, with this year's hurricane prediction being a crazy one. Now it's just that, a prediction, but we're going to heed the warning and make for sure that we potentially don't run into any issues. But they are predicting one of the most active hurricane seasons on record. Now you couple that with the fact that there's already been severe weather all across the United States. Tornado outbreaks have been happening like mad here lately. All the way from down here in the south in Florida where we're at, we've been all over the news, to the monster tornadoes out west that completely are leveling towns and disrupting people's lives. We've already been getting crazy weather around here, straight line winds, power outages, power lines snapped in half, trees down, cell tower outages. So it's got us thinking ahead for this year. So in today's video, we're going to be doing preparations in our storm shelter, in our home and around our property. So you may want to watch this. Not everybody has a storm shelter like I'm about to show you right here, but we're still going to do a lot of preparations. Now's the time to do this. I try to do at least 1 to 2 videos like this a year to introduce new ideas and get you thinking now before the hurricane season, a major active storm season, really kicks off. But as we've seen, the storms are already popping off all across the country. But the one big thing that I like to do, I'll spend close to a full day getting ready today because we have equipment repairs to do and lots of things to check. Now's the time to do it when there is no hurricane or no major storm on the forecast, because I'm not stressed out and not rushing around making mistakes trying to get ready. Too many people wait until the news tells you your area is in danger to run out there and find out the generator doesn't start, or you've got all kinds of other issues and you need parts and you're not prepared. Try to always do this several weeks to a month before the start of your active storm season so you can get prepared and get the equipment and parts in that you need. All right, so for those of y'all that are new to the channel, we did a full build series on this. You want to check it out. We've had it for a few years. 6-inch solid wood walled storm shelter. Yes, it's actually engineered and been tested in a hurricane facility, believe it or not, rated to extremely high winds. It's on a really thick, deep slab, and it's also anchored in the ground with 4-foot anchors, but nothing's getting through this wall, at least in our state with the type of winds that we get. No hollow cavities, laminated, solid, crazy thick. Big steel door. But we built this size. For one, people always ask me, why you build above ground? Florida, y'all, you can't build in the ground. The ground's saturated, we get too much rain. Whatever you put in the ground is gonna flood out. So not only did we build this shelter for tornadoes, I mean, we just had them come through our area recently, right? Tallahassee is not far away. They were all over the news. We just had some EF2s and EF1 tornadoes all in the same storm. Some smaller ones come through our area and we lost power for quite a while. But mainly for hurricanes. That's why we built this a little larger than your typical storm shelter. We may be out here all night long. So we've got a futon so we can stay out here and sleep overnight. This is also a big enough shelter to bring our dogs in with us. So what we're doing today is we're airing the shelter out. We're cleaning up anything, you know, bugs and things do get in here. We're checking our power stations, like this particular one right here. So long story short, I have this storm shelter hooked up to our solar equipment out here in the shop. So this is already off grid, say when a storm hits, but should we have any issues with power inside the shop feeding this, we can plug in a window unit. By the way, it has a steel door to protect it. Our weather radio, we can charge our phones, everything straight to this device right here, so we've got backups for our backups. You're gonna hear me talk about that a lot. So today we're changing out water bottles, we're checking our first aid kits, making sure that we have everything we need. We even have a toilet in here, believe it or not, should an emergency hit and you can't go outside. Another thing we added last year is a TV with a camera. Right here, it's a day and night camera. I can't tell y'all how much we love having that. We were just in here 2 weeks ago when we had a bunch of tornadoes come through the area, getting warnings, all that kind of stuff. And it was so nice when you're hearing crazy winds and you don't know what's going on outside. Flip on the TV, look at the camera, and you can still see the house is still there. You can see how bad the wind is. That's a comforting thing to have right there. We also put a Wi-Fi extender out here. I'm gonna show you today how we're gonna back up our Wi-Fi power as well, so we always have security and we can run our phones out here getting those updates that we need throughout the storm. All right, so a good once over in there is what we're gonna be doing today, but let's go check out a lot of other stuff. We got some new stuff going on this year too, some new tips and all that we're gonna share with you. All right, so if we come into the shop, I'm out here. I run 24/7 off grid anyways, unless it's a bunch of cloudy days. So we've got our main shop power supply system here, split phase 240 volt solar, or I can swap right back to grid, which I occasionally do. We've got multiple batteries down here, on the wall batteries up here, and we're building out our system as we can afford to. But this is actually what runs the shop, our freezers, refrigerators, saves our food out here, and this runs that storm shelter as well. Plus, again, don't forget, I keep a backup power station in the storm shelter. So, constantly giving stuff like this a once over. My small portable power stations, I have some spare ones like this right here. I'm charging them up, making sure they're good. And generators, y'all, just because we run solar here doesn't mean we don't depend on generators. We do. This Champion right here has bailed us out of many, many hurricanes and other storms. We were without power for 5 days last year after getting hit by a major hurricane, and some people in our neighborhood were without power for 2 weeks. So people really do depend on generators, solar, and other types of stuff. But because this has been sitting since last year, I'm checking the battery. We want to get the old fuel out of here. We want to test it. We want to run it. Y'all, I can't bring that up enough. It amazes me how many people wait till the storm is here, panic sets in, then you run and get your oil and your fuel, or you forget to get the oil, or you got to start the generator and realize it is gummed up because I haven't run it in a couple years. The carb's trashed. We're going to talk about some of that today. Run your stuff early now so you can still get parts and you can get fresh gas in it and get the old stuff out and use it if you need to. Because, well, generators fail, solar equipment fails, all kinds of stuff does. Test your equipment. Speaking of failure, this generator right here, we're going to work on it today. I'm going to show you spare parts that I keep just for generators and things like this. This one actually failed on me during the hurricane last year. It's my oldest generator, has got me through a lot of storms, but it will no longer start. And when I really needed it last year, it failed on me. Luckily, I keep backups for my backups, and I have more generators than this, so I was able to just keep on running through the stress of the hurricane and the outage. All right, y'all, coming in the house, you know, this is very popular. We talk about this a lot on the channel. This year, we're as prepared as we've ever been. We have the EcoFlow Delta Ultra power system in here, and we invested, even though they originally sponsored this for the channel, I'm upfront and honest about that, we invested in more battery power ourselves. We actually had a lot invested in all this equipment. We were using their Delta Pro setup last year, and that got us through the hurricane for days. This year, we are so prepared now, we can actually run the house a day, day and a half, almost 2 days, depending on what all we cut back on this system right here. So basically that means when, say, the hurricane or power outage hits, I don't have to go outside in the storm, dig out a generator, fire it up. I plug this right into a generator inlet box back there, flip one breaker up there, and we're powering the house up with this device right here. We can even run our central AC with that. Plus, we're protecting the more important stuff like food, freezers, refrigerators, running medical equipment, things such as that. Now, one thing I want to mention, I alternate between this power station right here and generators outside. And I'll even use the generator to charge this because we don't have a large solar array built on the house yet, but that is one of the projects this year. Again, people in my area last year were without power for a couple of weeks or longer, and you hear some of these major storms that come through, and potentially you're without power for a couple of months. We've seen it happen with Hurricane Michael, and then you'll see it down in Puerto Rico and all these other places. You cannot run an air-cooled generator that long. You have to stop them. You have to cool them off. You've got to constantly change the oil. People, don't forget to get oil. Everybody rushes out and buys gasoline. Get oil for your generators. It's the lifeblood of your generator. But what we found that we loved doing last year was running this all night long, including our central AC, protecting the house. Then we'd fire our generator up during the day when we didn't mind the noise, charge everything, run the house for a little while, run the AC, and then we would go back to a system like this all night long whenever we wanted to run. So we do believe in alternating. Once we get our big solar array outside, I don't know that we're ever going to have to run a generator again. This will run all night long until the sun's out the next day. Now, if it's really rainy and cloudy, we may fire up that generator on the porch, charge our system up. But we've got to get that solar array in this year because that truly may take us off grid or at least get us through a major extended outage like we experienced last year. So today's video is sponsored by EcoFlow. In the past, y'all seen that I reviewed the Wave 2. This is the world's first portable AC. It's solar powered, AC powered, or battery powered, and the first that offers cooling and heating. This is something that you may want for camping or whenever those emergency situations hit. Right now, this is their first anniversary and they have some awesome deals going on. There's limited deals with up to 40% off for the Wave 2 bundles, and you can get free car vent kits should you want to use this in a vehicle or for van camping. They also have some other deals going on right now, like the EcoFlow alternator charger. It allows you to do up to 800 watts of charging off of a vehicle's alternator. Delta Portable Series power stations up to 35% off, plus free solar panels with some of these bundles. So check out the Wave 2. I'm currently using mine, believe it or not, to cool off my electrical room and my solar equipment. We get really hot down here in Florida, and heat is the enemy of electronics, so this allows me to cool that off. I have future plans to put this in an off-grid structure for heating and cooling this winter. Stay tuned for that fun episode that's coming. These sale prices are only good till the end of June, so make sure you click below to check out all these products. Thanks to EcoFlow for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back to it. All right, let's talk about something like your internet right here. We've found that this is very important, especially what about if you have to evacuate and you need to keep an eye on your security system or anything else in the house. So if you plug this into the wall like most people typically do, well, here's the problem. When you lose power, you lose your cameras. I lose my weather station, which I love getting data through storms and all that. So this year, I have used one of my portable power stations right here, and long story short, the cord in the front runs up and powers up my Wi-Fi equipment. The cord in the back there runs and plugs into the wall, and it does pass-through UPS charging right here. It uses this as a UPS feature. Same thing as this UPS battery bank that I have underneath my computer, running my computer. It's a surge protector and battery built in one. Now you may want to seriously consider that if keeping an eye on your place, say you evacuated, security and all that stuff's important. Again, I like to keep the data from my weather station and like to keep an eye on my cameras, what's going on with the house, etc. Plus, don't forget that Wi-Fi up here actually feeds the storm shelter, so it's very important to me. So long story short, what a UPS means is an uninterrupted power supply. You can pick these up cheap like the battery one underneath my table, all the way up to a true power station like I have running back there. So once the power station or the battery is fully charged, you plug it into the wall and it passes through wall power through the unit to whatever's plugged in on the front side. In this particular case, it's my Wi-Fi and internet, which I need for all the reasons listed. Should we lose power in a storm, that unit is so quick, it immediately swaps over to battery power and then has an inverter built in producing 120 volts and continues to power up my stuff. Completely uninterrupted, it swaps over so fast, you don't even lose power to the internet. And then you can run for hours and hours and hours, maybe a day or more, off the battery that's in there in the inverter, keeping your equipment powered up. So again, if you had to evacuate and leave the state and you're wanting to check on what's going on in your home, you want your security system running, things such as that, that's very important to have. And you can pick these up from relatively affordable all the way up to full power stations like this. That's something we're running new this year because I'm tired of losing my data, my internet, my cameras, everything else right there. Something else, our big generator out there is dual fuel. It can run on propane or gas. So we decided over a year ago to invest in a very large 500-gallon propane tank right here. We got rid of a little 120-gallon that we have. So now we have years worth of propane in here, or we can run for quite a while in emergency if we need to run on propane because we can't get fuel. Y'all, I've seen it happen here. You think about this stuff's just in the movies. For example, a couple different times. Last year when the hurricane hit, it was over a month before I seen non-ethanol fuel, which is what I run in my small equipment generators, was available at the stores around here. You could travel to all the way up to Tallahassee, our state capital. We tried, drove all around, couldn't even get fuel a couple weeks after the hurricane had hit. So it's nice when you have fuel, backup fuel source like this that we can tap into to run generators should we not be able to run on solar for any reason. Now is the time you fill up your tanks. I always try to do this every year just before June, the start of our hurricane season. I just had this company out last week, topped me off, maxed it out completely. Yeah, it hurts. It's a big upfront cost, but now I am prepared and ready to go. It's something that we budget for every year. We know we're gonna do a big fuel purchase. Do not wait to call for your propane or your fuel if you have storage tanks on your property right before the storm, because everybody else is doing it. And most likely the hospitals, big businesses, big generators running cell towers, all those things, those people are probably going to get priority over you, as some of those places should. Don't wait till last minute. Go ahead and fuel up now. All right, something new we're doing this year. And by the way, none of this stuff is bragging, y'all. We have spent years saving up thousands of dollars to be prepared for this. Instead of vacations and other things, we would rather our money go to this because it just comforts us and makes us feel a little better. And this stuff pays us back dividends. So wanted to get that out there. No way, shape, or form we're bragging. Hopefully you're getting some ideas today of things that you want to start being prepared for as you develop your piece of property, or maybe you live in an area where you're constantly experiencing some of these outages. So this was quite a big initial upfront cost. We've decided to do fuel storage on the property this year. So we're going to be working on this in some upcoming episodes. We need to put a roof over this and really protect our stuff. I just want to keep it out of the sun, even though this is all rated to be in the weather. So a 500-gallon diesel tank so we can continue to run tractors and equipment and things after a storm. We typically have to do that with grapples and do some clearing and all that good stuff. And we bit the bullet and decided to go ahead and invest in an almost 300-gallon non-ethanol tank. Non-ethanol fuel stores very well, but we turn it over often, so we're constantly getting fresh fuel in there. This is what I run in my generators, my chainsaws, all my outdoor power equipment. I do not believe in running ethanol. That is a big tip that I can give y'all today. If whenever you go get your fuel, get it ahead of time and try to locate non-ethanol fuel that doesn't have the ethanol in it, which is known to give you carb problems, moisture problems, things such as that. And it's not a good long-term storage fuel at all. So that's not what I would have in my generator unless it was an absolute emergency. That stuff gets really hard to get leading up into major storms. And then after a storm, forget it. When everybody's running on generators, get prepared to wait in super long lines if you can even find the stuff. Like I said, last year it was over a month after a major hurricane before I could find it. This year, we're ready to go. Some other advice I can give you, go ahead and keep your tanks topped off. Not only does that help with condensation issues, but again, you don't need to be calling these companies a day or two before a hurricane comes, because guess what? Everybody else is doing it, and they have big accounts that they probably have to take care of. And there's only but so many drivers. If you see something's coming into your area, we're going to go ahead way ahead of time. We can have 2 weeks where they start talking about it, put my call in, come top me off. That way I'm out of everybody else's way, and this company can take care of all of their other clients. So we feel super blessed to have that this year. Typically in the past, I have to go fill up a bunch of 5-gallon cans like a lot of people do. I know that can be stressful and aggravating. You're fighting everybody else at the pump. I've seen some hurricanes in the past around here to where it took forever to get semis in from out of states because of the damage in the area, and there would literally be several hour-long waits at the gas station, cars lined up far as you could see, only to get to the pump and they either tell you, we've limited you to 5 gallons. I've seen that happen a lot. Or, we're out, there is none, we're going to try to get a truck tomorrow or the next day. Just investing in this right here, y'all, is such a stress reliever and headache reliever for us. We're good. We don't have to leave the property now after a hurricane or a major problem unless we want to go help somebody. We try to take care of everything that we have here. Now, something else we're going to be working on in the future with this, again, the shelter, but security. Man, I'm putting my life on the internet right here. People know I have this, and people go crazy when there's outages. Luckily, I live in a really good area, and we're always home. But security is big for taking care of stuff like this. Not only is generator theft big during outages, a lot of people experience that, but fuel theft can be as well. So I've already got cellular security cameras up out here watching everywhere, and now we have Wi-Fi out here at the barn because we have Wi-Fi extenders, so we're gonna run some Wi-Fi security cameras and cellular. So should we get hit by a storm, chances are one or the other will work, plus we're also here monitoring from the property. But that's a huge value item right here in an emergency outage, and we're gonna make for sure we can keep an eye on it. All right, so here's the big part of what I'm gonna do for preparations right here. I'm getting all my generators out and testing everything, getting old fuel out, making sure they'll run them a while. Now's a good time to go ahead and change the oil, freshen them up. And like I said, I've got one that's not running at all. We need to go through and figure out what's wrong with that. If you take anything away from today's video, it's this. Things like this, do ahead of time. Don't wait for the news to tell you something's coming, because you may need to order parts or get this to the repair shop. Do not wait till last minute. Now this generator's got about 6 or 7 month old gas in it. It's non-ethanol gas, so that's good. And I do have stabilizer in it. So I still trust the gas. We'll run it in some other equipment that we're gonna use daily and get it going, but I wanna pump it out of here because I like to fill my tanks up with fresh gas. I really feel like a tank full of fuel helps with condensation issues or any of the last remaining bits in there gumming up or giving you any kind of issues. So this here is my fuel caddy that I keep in the shop, and even though I've got the big pump out there, I still do keep fuel in this for filling up other types of things, but I mainly use my big pump out there now. It is almost empty. The good thing about this is not only does it pump fuel in, but you can siphon fuel out with it. So I'm gonna put this hose down into this tank, and And look, it is pulling fuel up and out. So this is a good, quick way to drain a tank like this. And this pump is fast. And now I'll go pump this into the Ranger because it's only a couple of gallons. I know it's still relatively good, but I don't want it to sit many more months. And then we'll fill this up, put some fresh fuel in here when we're done. This is also an excellent cart right here for whenever you do have to run a generator, say for days. I can keep this around in the back of the Ranger and go fill my generators up very quickly without having to fool around with those gas cans. So one other thing worth noting, I've had this generator for a long time, like many, many years. This battery is probably at end of life. Typically 4 or 5 years is what most people get out of a lead acid battery like this. Even though it's still working, I'm gonna go ahead and order me in a new one and replace this. So I know I can get another good 5 years use out. I don't wanna find out right at the time to use this that the battery's dead. Although this does have pull start, but we know, man, electric start sure is nice and convenient. So as you can see, something very important worth mentioning. Not only should you run non-ethanol in your tank, that's what I truly recommend. You can see I just cut my fuel off and I stood by for a few minutes and I let the carburetor run completely out of fuel and I let this shut itself down. That keeps the carburetor free and clear of fuel in it that it potentially could gum up your carb or cause any issues down the road. I always recommend running small equipment carburetors dry before putting up for storage. Let's talk about some other preparedness checklists, you know, pre-storm checklist items here. Now's the time to be cranking up your generators, seeing if they'll run. I've got one right here that will not run on me. I highly recommend, as cheap as carburetor rebuild kits are, and it ain't even a rebuild kit, brand new carbs, air filters, the works. Literally, I can give you a website down here where I pick mine up for like 15 to 20 bucks. Go find your model, go find the engine that's in here, and I keep spare carburetor rebuild kits. Now in the midst of, say, a post-hurricane storm here, power's out, my generator quits running. I don't have to panic. I don't have to get on Amazon or somewhere and wait 3 to 4 days for an item to come in. Maybe the trucks can get to you, maybe they can't. Keep carburetors for your important piece of equipment on hand. I've got a spare carb for my big generator you just seen. I know that I'm about to replace the one in this, so I ordered another spare for this. So got a brand new one ready to go on, new spark plug, new air filter, everything for $15 to $20, which is what these typically run. You cannot beat them. I'll put a link down in the description to where I get all of mine. What do most people do? Hurricane's coming, they panic. It's a couple days before. Somebody goes to the grocery store and they're buying the water and bread and all the other stuff. Another person's going and trying to get as many gas cans of fuel that they can. Again, get it early. It's not like you're not going to use the fuel, but everybody stocks up on gas, gets their generator ready. They forget the carbs, and you know what else they forget? Oil. Go by Walmart, get on Amazon. These things are like $17, $18 per gallon. Pick you up a few gallons of oil. I cannot tell you how many people will tell me, I ran my generator for 2 weeks straight after the last hurricane last year. You are destroying your generator. These are air-cooled engines. They run very hot. They use oil. They actually will burn some oil. You'll notice your level will be down after extended run time. And because they run so hot, they don't have no oil coolers, no nothing, the oil breaks down very quickly. The other thing worth keeping on hand, I keep a roll of fuel line. Generators this old, these fuel lines dry rot, crack, and deteriorate. When they start sucking air, that's bad. Your system will not run. Always keep you some spare fuel line on hand. Even if you just go to Napa and get a few feet cut off, it's worth having. And when you put these up for storage, either get the fuel out of them or use some stay-bill storage. I always put a little bit of this in, run and mix things around before I store it. All right, I've shown many times on the channel how to repair small engines, y'all. A $15, $20 kit will save your butt. So being I cannot get this to run at all, let me show you how quick and easy it is. Change out the carburetor and a few other things. This may potentially get you back running in literally a few minutes while you're in the middle of an outage because you're stressed out and you got more important things to worry with. All right, y'all, so if we take a look at our generator here, they're all gonna look very similar. Fuel cutoff valve, here's your air cleaner box. Usually there'll either be a screw there or a hand loosened nut just like this. Let's go ahead and take that off. All right, there's our air filter. Got this little piece, you need to make note of how that goes back in there. It's always a good time to snap pictures with your phone to see how things go back together. Of course, you can see this has got different types of corners. It can only go in one way. And here is our 2 nuts to loosen and take this air breather off to remove our carburetor. If you look around on this side right here, we've got fuel lines that we need to check. Sometimes those deteriorate. These look really, really good. But again, I keep fuel line on hand in case I need to change those out. And here is our carburetor in here. This stuff's very, very easy to get to. I don't know if you can see up in here, this is our throttle linkage right here. We're gonna have to remove that in there to pull the carb off. You're gonna take little air breather hoses off like that. I mean, this stuff is very, very straightforward. Looks like a 10 millimeter, and we'll get going. This kit right here comes with a new carburetor, spark plug, new fuel line, gaskets, everything we need to get back going right here. All right, so there's a gasket on the back side right here, which our kit comes with new gaskets. I do like to make note of how that goes on. This would be a good time to snap a picture with your phone, but you see that large hole up here? Well, you can see the notch out in our gasket for that. Maybe a little bit of fuel that comes out here. I'm already seeing some dry rot in this hose right here, but that's okay because our kit comes with a brand new hose. So we got some little clamps we got to take apart here with some pliers. Just very basic little clamps. Could be a little bit of fuel that comes out of this. Put a little bag down just in case. These fuel lines are so old. They're just dry rotted on. They're stiff. All right, so see that fuel line will not come off. It's so old and dry rotted. We'll just take us a razor knife, make a cut right here into the fuel line. And now we should be able to peel it off. Look at there, yeah, that line is no good. But for a 10-year-old generator, kind of expect that. Now remember this linkage I was telling you about up here? You've got this spring right here. And we need to spin this around, get that linkage out right there. Both of those are gonna have to go back and it'll be identical on the new carb. Look how easy that is, y'all. Carb comes right off. We can put the new carb right back on, but we don't like reusing gaskets, so let's get this gasket right here off. Make note of how it's on. Before we pull that completely off, I'm gonna get the gaskets out of the kit that come with it. Match up, looks like that one's got the same exact holes. Immediately swap right out with the new gasket. We're in business. All right, new carb goes right on. Let's go ahead and hook our linkages right back up. There's that one. It's a little spring on there. This will be a good time to go ahead and hook up our brand new fuel line. Press that on, do the same thing up here. Press that onto our fuel petcock. Put our new gasket on. Remember this notch right here for that hole up there. Now we know we're back correct. The kit also comes with a new choke knob, which goes right into this right here. There's your choke. It opens and closes that butterfly on the inside. All right, so let's get the choke lever in up there. It just goes right on this protrusion right there, and you can see that opens up the butterfly and the carb. That's how your choke works. Now we'll put our air box back on. Don't forget our hose that needs to go down into the air box right here that we removed earlier. Remember this plate that goes in here? And I like to tighten just hand tight to begin with, and then put a little pressure on each side moving back and forth. That way I get nice tension across my gaskets. I don't want to just tighten one side or the other and then potentially leave an air gap or an opening on my gaskets back there. So we'll do a couple of turns right there, a couple turns right there, come back, snug up. All right, here is our air filter. It's a good time to blow that out and clean it if it needs it. I mean, you're talking just a few minutes. If I wasn't recording, talking to the camera, I could probably do that in 5 minutes or less. All right, since this kit comes with a new spark plug, let's go ahead and change that. So this is my spark plug wire. It was right in here. I just popped it off. There is my spark plug. You'll have to find the size socket that fits yours. Not all of them are the same. Let's get our new New spark plug screwed down in there. And by the way, spark plugs come with what's called a crush washer right there out of really soft metal. That's basically what you're crushing down. You'll feel that you're getting some tension as you're tightening with the wrench, and then it'll crush and you'll feel it stop. That's when you need to stop. You don't want to strip out a cylinder head. All right, it's snugging up right now. We'll go just a little tighter and we're going to call that good. Okay, so I just put several gallons of fresh fuel in here. It may take it a second to start up, being that we just pulled everything out and everything's pretty well dry. Maybe the fuel will flow down there quickly. So let's turn our fuel on, turn our choke on, turn this on, and let's see. Again, I could not get this to run at all last year during the hurricane. Voila. I'm telling y'all, that's all it takes the majority of the time is a carb replacement. Always keep you some on hand. Okay, y'all, that was just a few of the things that I like to do ahead of time early. I have a couple more generators that I'm going to go fire up and run and make sure they're good, and a few other minor things to check around here. Now, obviously, should a storm or hurricane, something like that, be coming, well, we have a whole host of other things to worry about, things blowing around, things to tie down. We'll cover that in another episode, but those are the times that I don't need to be fooling around with stuff like I did today. It's already a stressful situation when storms or power outages happen. You don't need to be worrying about every little thing out there. Go ahead and get a lot of that off of your plate that you can now. And for example, if I had just found out today that that generator was bad, luckily I keep carbs here, but what if I don't? Now I'd have to order one in. That could take many, many days. Today's video is not about scaring people, doom and gloom. We don't do none of that, but we are all about being prepared here. The more of this stuff that we have and that we're prepared for makes our life that much more convenient and easier whenever these stressful situations come. All right, y'all, if you're interested in anything you've seen today, I'll put links down in the description. You can check out some of that stuff. If you're interested in solar or generators, battery backups, or anything else you see in this video, drop me a comment. I will respond to you. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next video.